It's about the aviation sector, and I would like to take this from a Malta perspective, specifically highlighting what's happening in Malta with regards to aviation. I trust that not many of you know that Malta's aviation history dates back quite a while. This is due to the fact that the island, strategically placed in the center of the Mediterranean, has been a British colony since 1814. And as a matter of fact, Malta had its first international flight way back in 1915. We're talking 100 years next year, and hopefully next year we will be celebrating the 100 years of the first flight into Malta. And that was when a seaplane reached our shores and entered Valletta's magnificent harbor. The importance of aviation in the Maltese islands continues to grow to an extent that at a point in time, the main island, Malta, had as many as 5 airfields plus 2 seaplane bases. And during that time, aviation in Malta served a military purpose and was only allied to the United Kingdom. Today, Maltese aviation is a tool for economic and social development and is linking our island to the rest of the world. And mainly for this reason, the government has identified aviation as a potential growth sector, principally convinced that this sector presents a myriad of economic and social opportunities, such as increased foreign earnings and a number of job opportunities. Our existing aviation sector, although relatively young, has already managed to attract some renowned industry players. Currently, the sector is largely characterized by an aircraft register with about 150 aircraft with European intra-community traffic rights, some 20 AOC holders, an MRO sector, an MRO meaning maintenance, repairs and overhaul sector, with a number of renowned companies like Lufthansa Technik, SR Technik, Smedavia, and a number of others, a number of flight training and type rating organizations, and a number of approved continuing airworthiness management organizations. But we do not want aviation in Malta to be simply that. We want aviation in Malta to be more than that, and government intends to support the private sector to continue to expand aviation in other areas, namely aircraft management, aircraft sales, charters and leasing facilities, financial and legal aviation services, repair and maintenance also of helicopters on larger scales, call centers, back office and shared services operations, management of technical documentations, interiors, refitting, refurbishments, repainting and so on, research and innovation in aircraft technologies and avionics, plus a number of other ancillary support services. And it is in this light that government immediately set out to establish a civil aviation authority and to draw up a national aviation policy for Malta, aiming to create this cluster of specialist aviation activities and to brand Malta as a center of aviation excellence, which can build on a number of unique selling points, such as our strategic location, which primarily is just between 1 and 3 hours distance to North Africa and Europe, a workforce with excellent work ethics, a high level of good governance, a stable administrative and ICT infrastructure, a robust legal and fiscal framework, a favorable fiscal regime, lower setting up and running costs compared to the rest of the Eurozone, a record of political and fiscal stability, excellent international connectivity by sea and air, plus Malta's hubbing potential. And when we talk about global aviation, everyone by now knows that global aviation is growing, and aviation technology is continuously changing. And the global aviation industry is playing a vital role in the global economy, mainly by promoting trade and tourism and facilitating businesses. One would wonder where we would be in terms of trade, tourism, and business without aviation today. And the latest forecasts indicate that the number of flights will increase from 10 million this year to some 15 million in the next 20 years. And still, as we listened to today, and still there is a very big demand for connectivity, and connectivity continues to remain a challenge. I would dare anyone to mention 2 points which are connected, and I could mention 1,000 which are not. And this is exactly the challenge. Obviously, we have to keep in mind also that connectivity is market-driven. You cannot simply go to an air company and you try to convince that air company to fly from point A to point B, because there might be a request of 100 or 200, unless there is the economy of scale, unless there is the critical mass of around 10,000 to 15,000 passengers a year. An airline would not be interested, because it's not economically feasible to fly between those 2 points. And we have seen lately that it's the aviation sector, in spite of the service it is giving, it's very, very difficult to make profits. And one of the things that anyone would learn in the aviation sector is, when you ask the question, how do you become a millionaire in aviation? And the answer is, you have to start as a billionaire. So, business aviation. Malta is also doing well in business aviation, or sometimes, as it is called, the private jet services. And this is today generating some 20 billion worth of traveling, employing some 170,000 around Europe, and creating some 9 billion worth of aircraft manufacturing. This industry is rapidly growing, and in the next 10 years, it is estimated that around 10,000 new business jets worth about 250 billion will be delivered. And in order to improve on the existing facilities offered to private jet services coming to the island, to Malta, the government is working with the airport managing body, that is MIA, to develop and provide a business aviation terminal specifically for these private jets. And whilst ensuring competitive fees for the commercial operators, the government is also easing the handling regulations to support further the business aviation sector. And we also recognize the fact that the setup at the Civil Aviation Department, as is today, needs to be beefed up to meet not today's challenges, but also tomorrow's opportunities. Aviation maintenance in Malta dates back, we can say, to post-World War II, when a good number of Maltese personnel were already being trained and were already being employed by the British forces on the island. And these skills were later inherited by Air Malta, which coincidentally this year we will be celebrating the 40 years of its setting up. And the same labor force, and later on, this labor force even went into some of today's MRO companies as well. Importance of proper training. The importance of proper training and precise aircraft maintenance has never been overlooked since that time. And I can say that education and continued professional development are still high on our national agenda, with MCAST, as was mentioned earlier on, regularly delivering aircraft maintenance training courses. I would simply like to mention also 2 other projects in line with government's direction for the aviation industry. And these are the Safi Aviation Park and the National Aerospace Center. The park was built to provide Malta's aviation cluster with a better operative infrastructure as a fully functional airside facility with direct access to the main airport's general infrastructure. And the government also recognizes the value of a strong research and innovation platform and has embarked on the setting up of a National Aerospace Center. The NAC, the National Aerospace Center, will bridge, hopefully, industry with academia and support local industry primarily in maintaining competitiveness. To conclude, overall, for the aviation industry, these are very challenging and interesting times, and undoubtedly these times bring along a number of opportunities as well, which opportunities I feel should not be missed. Malta would never be a flag of convenience in this sector, and it will continue to be the place where decision makers are easily accessible, where bureaucracy is the exception rather than the rule, where the regulator is also there to facilitate and not just to regulate. Current estimates show that Europe, Middle East, and Africa already make up some 25% of the aviation activity worldwide. And with Malta being smack in the middle of all that activity, one can only look towards the future with a positive outlook. And being the last speaker, I would like to give a well done to the economists for a very successful conference, and please let's do have more of this on a regular basis. Thank you.